I need you to hate so I can use you for your energy.
This is Real Sales Talk. Real sales advice from real sales practitioners. Giving you tips on how to dominate your sales quota are your co-hosts, Sean Mitchell and Phill Keene.
We don't have a process for referrals at most companies. I go into a company, I say, what's your referral process? They have no, well, what do you mean?
I think that goes back to the premise that why do salespeople suck at prospecting? I mean, number one reason why they suck at prospecting is they don't actually do it.
If you are successful and nobody knows, in 2016, 20, 2025, you're not successful.
You ever want to find out what's going on in the company? Get in the car and spend a day with the top 3 salespeople. You'll find out in 5 minutes.
Because you can't be a trusted advisor without 2 things, trust and advice. I mean, you need both of them.
What is going on, Real Sales Talkers? It's Phill Keene and your boy, the always great, always insightful Sean Mitchell. We are back again with season 4, episode 8. It's just Sean and I today. So we were going to have the wonderful Trish Bertuzzi on. Unfortunately, we had to reschedule. So that's going to be coming soon. She'll be back on. She's going to be talking account-based selling. It's all the rage today. So she's going to talk what is account-centric versus account-based and why it's different. And you guys are definitely going to want to check that out. So what Sean and I thought is maybe kind of pre-setting this up. We're in the thick of it. We're in Q1. We're moving into potentially the end of your Q4. You need a prospect. So Sean is going at it. He's a sales guy. I'm in marketing, helping the sales team. Been a practitioner. Both of us been practitioners. So we're in the thick of it. We're in the hunt, just like all of you guys right now. So Sean, welcome to episode 8, and it's the first time you've been the guest.
I want to be interviewed. I like that. In fact, doing some kind of side stuff for Real Space and have I'm working on being a podcast guest to represent my company that I work for, Real Space, a real estate CRM. So I think it's fun. Like, then you don't have to worry about, thinking of questions that you're going to ask and leading the conversation. It's just, taking the questions from someone else. So I'm happy to be a guest on the show. Thank you so much for having me, Phill.
Happy to have you. Thanks for being here, Sean.
Such an honor. Thank you for the invite. So I thought about sharing maybe some of the things that I'm working on right now. To give you a little bit of background, I came on with Real Space. I was doing some side work for them around June to September of last year. They liked what I was doing, and they brought me on full time in October. So October to December was very, very much about figuring things out. I did put together a strategic plan for that quarter, but now it's like the rubber meets the road. It's go time. How do I eat the elephant, right? It's a massive, massive thing. Where do I start? That's actually, I was asking some of these questions to myself this morning. And so I want to kind of give some insight into some of the things that I'm thinking so that, the Real Sales Talk family can hopefully receive some value, maybe get some ideas, jog some thoughts of what you can do. So there's a few different facets to what I'm looking at. You've got the inbound. If you put these into like sections, so you've got one section that's inbound. These are things like people signing up for 2-week trials, or this could even be, I would even put in this little bucket or section. Inbound chats, people coming to the website and chatting and engaging. This was happening this morning. I had to drop my car off to get service. Was getting an Uber back to the house, and what tool? It's Intercom. Intercom is the app that I use. So I got a little chat on Intercom, and I was dialoguing with someone who was asking questions about our software. Does a website come with it? What's included when I purchase the subscription? So trials, chats, and anything else. Maybe it's just people reaching out through social, which happens from time to time. So the strategy has been with this is to address, to reach out to people in the medium that they prefer. Not everyone likes phone calls. Not everyone prefers text messages. Some people like emails and like to correspond by email. So what I've done is created some drip campaigns for everyone who signs up for a trial, and very value based to help educate them on the best ways our customers are using the software. Right. So we're doing a little bit of edu selling through the drip campaigns, but I'm also making phone calls. And my strategy traditionally has been most real estate agents, which is who our customers are, pick up the phone. So don't necessarily have that big of a problem getting people in trial on the phone. But if it's some point, there's actually a couple of people that I need to reach out by text because they're not returning my phone call when we've had some initial conversations. So trials, chats, and any other inbound methods, I think it's incredibly important to reach them how they want, reach them how they prefer to correspond. And if you're only phone calling them and they're not returning your phone call, that might be a sign that you need to reach out to them in a different medium. So let me just kind of take a breath there and let you dive in.
So actually, yeah, I want to slow down and make sure. I think what you said is really valuable, which is I'm big. Like, if everybody ever asks me what's my biggest sales tip ever, I always kind of say what you're saying is reach out to them and correspond with them the way that they want to be corresponded with. If you think about the way that most executives today they're not at their desk, they're inundated with meetings. They don't have a desk phone. If they do have one at their desk, they're not at it. It might be on mute. If you get their cell phone number, they'll answer it because it's a business phone most times, or as long as it's during business hours. But the access to get to a cell phone is almost next near impossible. They read email, but they also get 50,000 emails in a year. There's ways to figure it out. So I'm curious to see your methodology, and you've done this with not just Real Space, but with other companies as well. What are the methods that you're using to figure out what mediums are the appropriate way to reach somebody, whether it's social or email or text or phone or whatever?
I mean, I'm a big believer in testing and seeing what produces results. So, if I'm doing some initial prospecting on LinkedIn, for example, I'm looking to see, who's got the VP of sales role at a specific company, or, something similar. I may try and send a LinkedIn message or connect with them. And if they don't respond, like I actually got a response from a guy yesterday. He's like, hey, I sent him a couple of messages through LinkedIn. He agreed that, he agreed to meet for lunch. He's a guy out of Denver in the mortgage industry. And I think he could be a good key relationship for me in the local market. But anyways, so like I sent him 2 messages, didn't respond. So I'm like, okay, I'm moving on to something else. He got back with me yesterday after 2 weeks. And he's like, so sorry, why don't you send me an email? It'd be much better. Sometimes I don't check my LinkedIn. So there he's actually telling me how he prefers to be communicated to. But I think it's important to test. Don't do the same thing over and over if it's not getting results. And the true measure of success as a sales rep is, does it produce results? Does it get someone to respond? Does it close the deal? Does it fill in the blank?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. So if you look through I actually use a cadence with our prospecting team. We call it the crazy ex-girlfriend internally.
I love the name.
I actually just got interviewed. If you guys go to Sales Tuner podcast, and I talk about it a little bit more length, but the idea is that you're reaching out to people the way that you communicate with people you're interacting with. And it's kind of what you're telling me here. And when you said, hey, I sent him 2 messages on LinkedIn, I didn't want to reach out to him, because the same thing, you or I, like, you might send me 2 messages via LinkedIn and give me time to respond, and then maybe a week later you're going to send me an email. Like, that's how you and I as friends would interact with each other and correspond with each other. So when the crazy ex-girlfriend, the idea is that you're reaching out the way that people you interact with on a daily basis, you would interact with them, and how you would reach out to them. So I might send you an email, and Sean, you're a busy person. You might need a week to respond. So I have cadences with C-levels that I send an email once, and then 7 days later, I'm finally then starting my cadence with them, because they might read your email, but they just need time. They're busy. It's just how their calendar works. And it could be things like I'll look at their LinkedIn profile between those days that I actually reach out, but just something to say, hey, I'm still paying attention. And over time, it becomes more and more frequent, where it creates urgency in the back end. So what you're saying, I think, is that it's being aware of your medium and how to communicate in the medium, but not making your communication unnatural. So I think it's super valuable.
Let's talk about that a little bit more, because I can hear people thinking, well, how often should I reach out to these people? And I think that's a valid question. What would you say to that? If someone were to ask you, okay, so how much is too much? How much is not enough?
It's interesting because I think it depends on persona. You have to really know your buyer. Things like making a relationship with the guy in Denver is really interesting for you, because that's a question you could ask him, and it's in that role and in that persona. The ways that I would go about doing it is, if you're a prospector or you're a seller and you have not sat down with a customer post sale and understood how they like to purchase. I can't tell you, like, I'm a sales guy at heart, so I don't treat myself like most marketers. Like, I've lived in the world of sales. I'm marketing to salespeople. That's what we do. So I've always been in that world. So I can tell you, like a salesperson, and I want to be cold called. I want you to pick up the phone and I want you to call me, and I'm going to answer my phone. If I'm available, I will answer it. And I want a really short, concise, worded email, and you can send it to me 50 times, and eventually I'll respond if I finally see the thing that catches my eye. Versus somebody that's an IT buyer, it might not be that aggressive. Or a real estate guy, they might want text message because they're showing and they're doing all these things and they want to be reached. They want to get communicated with, and they're most of them, for the most, like, they're on social now. They're starting to get more aware of what's going on in the marketplace. There's ways to reach them via Facebook. They want to be found, like, to your point. So they're going to answer their phone as well. They're just like, they're salespeople. That's what they want. They want to be reached out to. They want to talk and communicate. So I think it's really understanding your persona and building a cadence around that persona. But the idea with the half-life cadence, or the Crazy Ex-Girlfriend cadence, is that you're reaching out the way that's natural for people. Which is, every cadence that you ever look at, for the most part, when it's written by an inexperienced sales leader or SDR leader or a prospecting leader, whoever, it's always heavy up front. It's, Sean, I'm going to give you a phone call today, and then I'm going to send you an email right after. And I'm going to send you 3 emails in the next 5 days. And then I'm going to give you 7 touches in the next 7 days. And I'm going to hit you so hard that you're going to respond. You're going to beg for mercy. And basically at the end, you're just going to be so pissed at me. You're going to say, don't talk to me. Right? Why would you do that? Like, this is just not the natural way to reach out to somebody. Like, especially if it's cold. If it's a cold outreach, you wouldn't do that way.
I think you really do need to put yourself in the buyer's shoes or the prospect's shoes and ask yourself, would you like to be called 3 times a day for 5 days straight? Or look at it from this angle. Maybe you're like, I don't care. Think about your mother. Would your mother like you calling her 3 times a day? Maybe you've got the mother who would, but how would you treat a family member? And in most cases, you would treat the family member with a little bit more finesse and self-awareness, to not annoy them and not push them away because you're trying too hard. And it's like that. It's like that whole analogy of a high schooler guy trying to work too hard to pick up the chick, and because he's working too hard, it's really obvious, and it actually repels chicks rather than attracts them.
So here's where I'm curious with you, because I think you have a good reach or a good understanding of who your persona is. It's pretty straightforward. Is readily available, what houses they're selling, how they're doing things. I'm in social, I have a presence, I'm doing these things. Like, the real estate agent in general is a pretty accessible person.
Yeah,
it's their trade. How much, or where do you decide to draw the line between, I know so much information about you, it's kind of creepy, and I'm going to give you enough to show you I did my research and know that I know why I should be reaching out to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think first and foremost, the first thing that comes to mind is reach out to them through the mediums that they've given you. So in my scenario, I get a 2-week trial, right? I get a phone number and I get an email address. The email address, of course, yeah. I mean, they're going to get an email from me. If I got a phone number, they're going to get a phone call from me. If I know it's a cell phone, then I'm also going to send them a text at some point. But you know, I think when you start doing some of that extra research, you do have to be aware. Like if you haven't had any conversation with them, and then you're hitting them up on LinkedIn or Facebook. I mean, some social media platforms are more personal than others. Like, you know, Twitter's very open, LinkedIn's very open. Sometimes Facebook can be very personal, and people only share personal stuff. So I think you do need to be aware of that. I sort of feel like my opinion of social media is changing a little bit. This may not be the case for everyone, but starting to open up more of the platforms that have traditionally been personal to me. So I think you just have to kind of play it by ear. If you see someone is really active on an open network like LinkedIn or Twitter, it may be okay to go there. And if you haven't heard from them by phone or email or text, maybe reach out to them, engage a little bit, and apply some of the things that Jack Kasikowski suggested when we had him on the show a couple of episodes ago, and engage. Build a relationship, and then eventually go in for the ask.
So kind of piggyback off that. So I've always had this idea, and I've never really tried it with an actual cadence or structure. But post-contact, and maybe you and I can talk through this in real time. Post-contact. So I reach you, you're a prospect. You say, Sean, hey, thanks for reaching out. I love what you're telling me. It's just not good timing, because it's true. Sometimes it's not. And sometimes it's just a BS no. Right? Or it's, hey, Sean, really love what you're telling me right now. I just don't really have time for this right this second. But you can try to throw something on my calendar. Definitely reconnect with me. And you could tell it's genuine.
Mm-hmm.
Or even just kind of the blow off of, hey, just call me later. Call me in 6 months. Call me in 3 quarters. What's the actions that you do post that? Like post first contact, I spoke with you. I have some ideas, but I would love to hear kind of your gut reaction first.
Yeah, one of the first things that comes to mind is, if at all possible, while you have that person on the phone, try and find out why. Try and find out, this phrase may sound pretty cliche, but reword it. So what's going to change in 6 months? Try and find out where they're wanting to be in 6 months, and why it's appropriate to wait versus do things now. Because in most cases, you're right, it is a smokescreen. Jeb Blunt talks a lot about this in his book, Fanatical Prospecting. It's a brush off, he calls it. It's right. Just, I don't know you, I'm really busy, you caught me in the middle of something, I don't have time to talk. Right? But if you can respond, if you have some kind of quick responses to get a little bit more information about it, then you can set some actionable follow-up to that, that conversation. So, okay, great, no problem. You've exhausted your budget for the rest of the year, and in the next 6 months, or at the end of the 6 months, you're going to have a refreshed budget, or you're going to whatever. I mean, sometimes there are some valid reasons why someone is just not in the position to look at the tool. Sometimes you can. Sometimes if they don't know anything about your product, you could try and push for just an initial discovery call now, like in the immediate term, to really even determine if it's something that they should take a look at in 6 months. And so I would hang up the phone. I would try and get some sort of actionable item before they hang up the phone. I'm going to call you on this day at this time, or I'm going to follow up with an email. Take a look at this white paper, this success story from one of our customers in your same industry that increased their conversion rate by 30% after implementing. And, let me know if this is something that is urgent enough for you to implement right now, or truly push off to next week. So, try and get a little bit more information instead of allowing them to brush off. Find out a little bit more and see if you can dig in. You may find that it is a brush off, and if you can get them to talk a little bit more, you might have a little bit more insight into how you can proceed moving forward.
I love it. So, all right. So looking through this, you and I talk, obviously I'm going to push back. So I have my standard rebuttal or my things that say, hey, I know you're kind of blowing me off. getting the next step is critical. So it's, hey, you said reach out to you in 6 months, but I'd love to put something out. I'm going to send you an email. You're almost painting the picture. I'm sending you an email. It's going to have an offer in there. I think it's relevant for you to still understand just why we think that you'd be a good fit as a customer, or maybe it's not even, maybe it's a softer lob, which is, hey, there's just a piece of content we created. I think it's going to be great for you to understand from a real estate standpoint, or sales standpoint, or a marketing ops standpoint, or an IT standpoint, whoever you're selling, just to help you understand the market. I think you'll find it relevant. Post that next step. Have you ever thought about just immediately connecting with somebody on LinkedIn? Like, just go into, if I just talk to you, we're on the phone, we have a conversation, I immediately go to LinkedIn and I find you and I connect, like within 15 minutes.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I don't think it can hurt. I would challenge our listeners to think through why. What's the purpose of connecting on LinkedIn? You know, because I know a lot of people, and of course I've done this as well. I've connected with someone and then never gone back to them after that. So if you have zero strategy after connecting with them, then it's probably not worth it. If you have no intentions of, you know, posting consistent content around your industry vertical, you know, companies that you want to reach out to, as a way to kind of nurture the exposure of your product to that person, not worth it. But if you have a strategy around it, absolutely can't hurt.
Yeah, because I think that's valid. So that's where you almost, as a salesperson, have the ability to take the marketing nurture campaign out of the marketing team's hands and owning it and putting it into social, to where it's always top of mind. Because that's where my mind goes, is let's set a next step. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to give you post conversation. I'm going to connect with you on LinkedIn. I'm immediately going to start sharing content that might be relevant to you, not to you directly, but just in general, to keep in front of you. And then potentially looking at their profile regularly. If you have Sales Navigator, saving them in Sales Navigator, so if they do make a post, you know it. I think there's a lot of relevance there, and where you can keep interacting, keep having conversations, and staying top of mind. And maybe it's just that constant, hey, I saw this, and then you tag them on LinkedIn rather than sending them an email. It's, hey, this is super relevant. I think you would enjoy this, Sean. So if you build a cadence around that and almost put that into some kind of tool that helps you organize it, whether it's a Sales Loft or an Outreach or any of the lead management softwares that are out there, I think there's some. We should flesh that out a little bit. Maybe you and I can come up with a cadence, a post first contact cadence of what that looks like. And I think if salespeople can start thinking of that, it goes back to the I'm strapped. I need a big quarter. I need to build a pipeline. You almost always have, as an SDR or an AE, you have to have your own pipeline, things that you're working that are as a prospecting pipeline, and you understand where you're at in those stages and how you're working them.
I'm like right in the thick of that right now. So we are getting trials in, but not to the level that I've set for trial goals. And of course, everything trickles down, like conversion rate of those trial demos, conversion rate of those demos, and then sales. So I'm having to look at some creative ways to generate some more trials. So, you know, I've been the last couple of weeks or week and a half, I've been putting a lot of time into reaching out with people, to people, and for those that are local, inviting them to a lunch, just getting their feedback, building the relationship. I had a Google Hangout call with a real estate agent, luxury real estate agent in New York City, Betty Lee. Shout out to Betty Lee if you're listening. Really, really awesome. So you know, I mean, I'm just using social media. I used Facebook I made a post and said, hey, do you know anyone in the local mortgage industry? I'd love to talk with them. And I got, you know, 2 or 3 or 4 different Facebook friends, you know, like mention one of their friends that's in the area. So I've got 2 people that I'm trying to nail down some lunches with. Betty I've been following her on Snapchat and Instagram stories. You know, she was a relationship that I built there, and I just asked, like, hey, would you mind, you know, So I think when you start to look at building new business or, you know, nurturing a new relationship, you know, it's not a bad idea to try some of these mediums that perhaps are not so noisy, like turning an email drip campaign into a LinkedIn drip campaign and mentioning people that you want to build a relationship with.
I love it. I think it's good. Looking at that, anything else, words of wisdom for people that are in the hunt, in the struggle, in the fight, in the trenches today? What do they need to know for building out? Maybe it's Q2 pipeline, maybe it's finishing out Q1 strong. Anything else that you got to go do this today?
I mean, we talked about this a little bit before we hit record, which is, your what some people call the whales, or the big accounts, your top 20, your top 30. For me, I'm in the process of putting together a top 50, and for me, this would be like ideal large accounts, so large real estate brokerages, not massive, but where I'm trying to focus on. And if any of you sales talkers have some people that you can refer, shoot me an email or reach out to me on Twitter. But I'm probably looking at that 50 to 100 real estate agent brokerage to build relationship with and see if our software is a good fit. So I'm gonna create a list of my top 50. These are the people that I want to reach out to periodically to see if I can get some time with and see if our CRM can help facilitate more transactions, more business for their brokerage and office.
Yeah, I think it's important too when people are putting together lists like that to understand that it's a long game with a lot of those companies. As you start looking at strategic accounts, typically from a sales standpoint, your mind immediately goes to big accounts, right? The biggest and baddest thing you can possibly sell that with the highest efficiency. If you adjust your mindset a little bit more around who just has the highest propensity to purchase from you, and that's how you build your list, it's a little different. But still, it's a long-term game, and this is a very early stage of a prospecting pipeline, and it's figuring out how do you get in front of these buyers, and how do you map them out? How do you get to a decision maker quickly inside of these accounts? How do you grow inside of multiple people inside of these accounts? So there's a lot to it, and it's just really understanding your buyer that's super important. And then to your point we made earlier, which is how do I actually talk to them? How do I reach out to them? So I think it's super valid.
Real quick, what tools do you use or have you used to put together that strategic, those key accounts?
Lots of data mining on our current CRM. So I think there's a lot there. So the first thing is really just taking what you have from an institutional knowledge as well as actual physical data that you have in whatever your back office system is, to pull that together and make a good, smart decision. Once you have that, so it's really Excel there or Google Sheets, whatever you want to call it. So putting that together, understanding my buyer, what my ideal customer profile is, what personas inside those profile makes sense for us to reach out to. That's the key of all that working. Outside of that, like the way that we built our tech stack, we use Hoovers for account data, Zoom Info right now for contact data. So we have all of that where it gives us firmographic data as well as taking a step into account data or contact data. We additionally use SalesLoft Prospector, which is no longer gonna exist for people that are SalesLoft Prospector customers, but Prospect.io is out there for you guys. There's other things out there that still have some kind of attachment to LinkedIn. I'd recommend something like that just from a peer. We've got to put it in the CRM standpoint.
Have you used Mattermark before to pull any of that information together?
I've not. I've seen demos of it. It's just something I have not made the pull on, and there's relevance. I don't know. I think some of it has understanding what your customer profile is and the best data set for your customer profile. So that's what we found so far with Hoovers and Zoom Info. There's other great data providers out there: Discover.org, RainKing, Mattermark, like you mentioned, DataNice, HD Data. There's tons and tons of data providers out there that give you really good data. I don't recommend purchasing lists. I think there's ways to, maybe it's how you start. So like you get all those emails and say, hey, do you want to know about your competitors and what their data sets are? Maybe that's a place to start, but you really can't trust the data a lot of times with those. So you have to go back and fill out the rest of the data to help out. Virtual assistants are great too, to start doing this data mining and cleaning up your data, your firmographic data, all of that, just to give you a better place to start. And then from there, you're really just matching, saying these are the right SIC code, This is the right revenue band. This is the right region for me. These are right, all of that. These are the right personas inside of those companies, and then you just match that up with what you think your customer profile is, and then you say these are the highest propensity for me to work with.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, there's 10 right there that we've listed, so hopefully that gives someone enough options to go and investigate those and find one that works for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully.
Cool.
If not, you can listen to Tech Talk. Maybe we'll go through and
yep,
drop another one at you guys.
Sweet. Should we wrap up?
Yeah. So that's Sean. Thanks for coming on as a guest today.
Anytime, anytime you want to have me on, I'm happy to. It's been a pleasure. It's been fun.
Where can people find you, Sean? If they want to get in touch with Sean or Real Space, how can they find you?
Twitter's at Sean M. Mitchell. Instagram is Sean Michael Mitchell at Sean Michael Mitchell. Email, I guess if you want to email me, Sean at realspace.com.
Very cool. Sean, pleasure to have you on today.
Mm-hmm.
And as always, we'll catch you guys in the next episode. Looking forward to it, and thank you. Looking forward to episode 9. Who's our guest for episode 9? Do you know?
Who's our guest? I think we already have. We've already recorded it. I think we're gonna. Well, we got to figure that out. Is next week the last few days? We're gonna do Amy Schmidt-Hour next week.
Cool. Quick overview. Who's Amy? For those that don't know.
Yeah, Amy is. She's actually pretty well known. She's like a YouTuber. She's very well known. I don't. She's probably got like 35,000, or maybe that's underestimating. But she's got quite a few subscribers to her channel. She basically does. Her thing is vlogging, video blogging, basically, and she creates a lot of content around marketing. And we had her on because she is coming out with a new book called Vlog Like a Boss that releases on the 31st of January. So we're going to release that on the book release date. And it was a really good episode. It's all around how salespeople could and should be leveraging video more.
Yeah, that was a great episode. I'm really looking forward to launching it for everybody. Super insightful. So be on the lookout for not just episode 8. Thanks for listening to episode 8. But episode 9 is going to be great. So make sure you hit the subscribe button. Leave us an amazing review on iTunes. Check us out on YouTube. We also put this on YouTube for those who haven't seen it. Subscribe on YouTube. Thank you all. And keep it real sales talkers. We got to get a catchphrase. I don't know.
I know. We'll come up with something.
All right.
See you guys. Bye-bye.